Hi everyone, welcome to a demonstration video where I'm going to show you how to model exact glazing based on geometry that you draw in Rhino versus what Honeybee creates. So let me just turn on this example, this view that I have. I'm going to visualize my zones. And you can see here that I have a window to wall ratio set up of 0.4. And I do have a little bit of control of the proportions of this glazing. Um, I could subdivide it. Um, I could change the window height. So this is based on the units that you put into here is based on what units you have in Rhino. So my Rhino is set up in feet. So I could tell it, let's say, a unit window height of 9, for instance. So you could change that. You could change the sill height. So the window height is the total height of just the window itself. And then the sill height is from the bottom of the zone to the bottom of the window, what that height is. So you could change that also. You can see that's changing for me. I'm going to turn off all my other geometry. So we're just seeing the thermal zone. You could also change the horizontal separation distance. I'm just going to put 4 for now. You'll see that if you have subdivide chosen versus not choosing it, it's going to create as many windows as it can with the parameters that you give it. So I'm going to increase this horizontal separation distance. So if you hover over this, it says the number of horizontal separations between individual aperture center lines. So that's actually the distance between the center of this to the center of that. So if we make it smaller, it's going to make more apertures because that distance between apertures is lower. So that's what this does. And then you could also choose a vertical separation distance if you have multiple windows stacked vertically. So the reason that you might want to do this is if you're studying particular shading options, I think it's very useful to model the actual proportions of the window because the amount that is shade will be dependent on the proportions of the window. So that's why you might want to go through this exercise. Let's say that you play with these options and it's still not really modeling the glazing that you have. Then there's another option to model glazing. So this is one way to add a little bit of control or add a little bit of nuance to your glazing proportions, but there's another way to model the exact glazing, and that is by modeling it in Rhino and bringing it into Grasshopper. So I'm going to do just that. I'm going to create a new layer here in Rhino, and I'll call it glazing. So I made a new layer. I'm going to change the color of it. I like to make my glazing this cyan color. And then I'm just going to turn off the visualizations from Grasshopper, and I'm going to turn on my zone. So let's say this will depend on what your building is, of course, and what your glazing is, but I'm just going to make something up here. You're going to be drawing your glazing as a surface. So you're going to come over here to surface and you'll choose vertical plane. You could also just type in the command plane here. Plane. And I'm going to choose vertical. And I'm just going to create a surface that represents my glazing. So let's say my glazing, I'm just going to start here. I'm going to left click, and let's say it's 7 feet, the width, and then the height is, let's say it's 10 feet. And I'm just going to bring it up 1 foot. So let's say that's my glazing. And let's say I have 2 of them. I'm going to move this. Let's say I'm going to start from here, this perpendicular distance. So I'm moving it from that to that. And so let's say the first one starts about 1 foot from here. And then let's say I have another one that's about 20 feet, or say 15 feet. Okay. So I've modeled my glazing. You could just model yours for your building as a surface. And one thing that you need to make sure is that it's modeled as a surface directly on top of the thermal zone. So if it's a little bit off, like if it's just like a tiny bit off, like this one is because I dragged it, it's not going to model properly. You need to make sure that's directly on your thermal zone. The next thing you do is you select your glazing. So I'm hitting Shift and left clicking and selecting, and I'm typing DIR. This is going to show the normal direction, the direction of the surface. So the surface has this property of the direction, and you want to make sure that it's pointing out. So the direction it's pointing is these white arrows. Mine are pointing outside. They're pointing towards the outside of the building, but let's say it was, I'm going to click on them. Let's say it was pointing this way. So the way that I can fix it, one of them's pointing inside, one of them's pointing outside. I just left click on it and it'll flip directions. And I want to hit enter to save that. And then just select your surfaces again and type DIR just to make sure that they're all pointing out. Okay, great. So they're all pointing out. Then I'm going to grab those surfaces. So I'll just use a geometry pipeline to grab them. The layer, double left click in there, the layer is glazing. And so type in the layer that you chose for the glazing. And I'm going to choose this BREP surface, BREP type. You could also just under params geometry, you could bring it into Grasshopper by choosing a surface container and then right clicking and saying set multiple surfaces, and you could select your two surfaces and hit enter. These are two different methods for bringing your surfaces into Grasshopper. So now we need to make them honeybee objects. So what you'll do is you'll go to honeybee, create, and honeybee aperture. So what this does is it combines the geometry and some energy properties. So this is where you could, if you wanted to, put in some like a specific window construction or set if the window is operable. The windows are operable. For this, we are just going to put in our geometry. So you could choose either one, this one or this one. I'll just go with this one. Actually, I'll go with this one and delete. So these are our windows right here. And this is creating, what this component is doing is it's creating, changing our windows into honeybee apertures. That's another way that honeybee calls windows. And now we just have to apply these honeybee apertures, this geometry with some energy properties, basically. That's what's coming out of here. If you hover over here, you'll see it says 2 locally defined values, and it's those 2 apertures. We need to add it to our model. So what we can do is we go to honeybee tab, we go to create, and then we go to add subsurface. Okay, so our honeybee, so what this does, if you hover over it, it says it adds a honeybee aperture or door to a parent, face, or room. So it wants a honeybee room or face to add the subfaces. So we have rooms actually coming out of here. We're not going to use this anymore. We're gonna just cut this out. So let me disconnect this. I'm going to disconnect that. I'm going to disconnect this, and I'm going to disconnect that. So I'm just going to move this over here because this was the old method of adding windows. And now I'm going to bring my rooms into here, and then I'll bring my rooms into here. So now I've replaced my method of adding glazing, and I'm going to add these apertures to this subface input to add them. Now, if I turn off these layers in Rhino and I go to where I'm viewing visualizing my geometry, you'll see that the apertures were created. And I think we're visualizing something else here. Oh yeah, we are visualizing this component when it brings in the geometry. It also creates a little visualization for us. Let's just right click and turn the preview off for that. Yeah, so this is what it should look like. So those were two different methods of having the windows. So we have this method. I'm gonna just demonstrate this changing. So this is one method. I'm gonna group this. I just selected these and said Control G. And then this is the other method. So if we grab our rooms from here and bring them in here, and then replace this method over here, you'll see this was our old method, and then this is our new method. So you could choose with which one to go with. I'm going to go with this. Okay. Let me know if you have any questions about this, but now you should be able to create your custom glazing and set it whether it is operable or not. um, yep. That is it for this video. Thanks. Bye.